the two most non-religious or anti-religious establishments, I think, are the media and education. 75% of all philosophers are atheists. 4% of Americans label themselves as atheists, but 75% of the philosophers.
Yes.
So you know where it's going, the teachers versus the students.
Yeah.
History of philosophy is not a grand strategy, but yeah, there is definitely a turn from ancient medieval philosophy, which even among paganism is basically religious in a generic sense, to modern philosophy, which tends to dismantle the medieval synthesis. When we suddenly developed science and technology so successfully in the Renaissance, and it was so good at turning this world into a much more pleasant place, we got a new answer to the question, what's the meaning of life? And it was a this worldly answer. Conquer this world instead of let yourself be conquered by God. So that means two things. That means turning your attention away from the supernatural to the natural, and it means a kind of arrogant playing God with the world, because it's silly to bow down and worship the world. And it's also silly to push God around. So if you're going to think about God, you're going to let yourself be guided by some higher force. If you think about the world, you are the higher force, and you conquer it. That's why if you look at almost every pre-modern culture in history, they have some version of this answer to the question, what's the most important thing in life? Conform the human soul to objective reality by wisdom, self-discipline, virtue, yoga, religion, something or other. For the typically modern consciousness, the fundamental problem of human life is how to subdue objective reality to the wishes of man. And the solution is some sort of technology. Frankenstein's monster. If we ever did that, and half the world's geneticists think it's possible, because you can recode the genetic code, I think that would be the most important event in the entire history of the human race. That would be hell on earth. Take a dozen eggs, keep them in your kitchen table for 2 weeks, no, 2 years, and smell them. You'll smell the kind of world that we'll live in when we don't hatch anymore. If we're designed to hatch, if we're designed to spend so much time in this womb of a world, it's a pretty big womb, but it's still only a womb, and you stay in there forever, you can run. I'm thinking psychologically.
Psychologically, yeah.
Plenty of science fiction stories about that, artificial immortality, plenty of old myths about that. Tithonius the Greek, the Flying Dutchman, the Wandering Jew, it's a curse. Immortality in this world makes you a vampire, an undead. Imagine the Roman Empire lasted another 1,000 years. Imagine Hitler's empire had been a 1,000-year Reich.
Yeah.
Corruption. I find Dawkins frightening. He's a nasty guy. I mean, Christopher Hitchens is at least, I mean, he's blasphemous, but he's a gentleman and he's funny. And he's kind of intelligent. Dawkins is not that bright. He's just pushy. I'm surprised he's popular in Canada. Your people are so polite. This is another thing that gets me. These politically correct atheists idolize politics. Everything is politics. They reduce religion to politics. Well, suppose you reduced religion, believers' religion to politics. That would weaken it. So I think he's weakening the case of atheism for attacking people like Bush more than anybody else. Bush is not the devil. He may be a stupid president, but he's not the devil. You want a good atheist, a strong atheist, read Nietzsche, or Sartre, or Albert Camus, or Ivan Karamazov. Those are real atheists.
Like what?
Because they deal with the heart of the problem. Man's rebellion against God. How can God tolerate such a world, such suffering, such evil? But they don't just toss that off as an apologetic argument. They enter deeply into that mystery. Strongest argument for atheism I've ever seen in all of literature is by Dostoevsky, of all people, who was a very profound Christian. Ivan Karamazov and the brothers Karamazov makes the case so strong that he doesn't get answered. His brother Alyosha, all he can do is kiss him. He can't answer him. The suffering of children and God's complicity in that, but it's a moving case. Nobody can read that without being moved. It's surrounded by a great novel, and it's answered in a rather subtle way. Not so much a clever way as a way of reconciling yourself to the mystery of the world, which Dawkins doesn't do. Dawkins demands a purely rational, scientific explanation for everything. It was the kiss. It's active love. In the Brothers Karamazov, in the Grand Inquisitor, which is the poem that he recites to his brother, which he himself composes, the Grand Inquisitor is brilliant. He's like Dawkins. And Jesus is on the other side and has no answer for him. But he kisses him. And that just throws him off. I have no problem with evolution, I just have a problem with the evolutionary fundamentalists. Any critique of Darwin is like a critique of God. I have no problem with evolution, it evidently happened. I have no reason to think that God always works by miraculous intervention. So it fits the religious worldview very well. God likes to use nature, so he uses natural selection. Where's the problem? Intelligent design isn't science, it's philosophy. The idea of design is not a scientific idea. It can't be verified empirically or quantitatively, but it's certainly good philosophy. So if he wants to challenge that, he has to do philosophy and not science. It is a proper theory, but it's not scientifically verifiable. Like God. God is I think there are very good arguments for the existence of God, but they're not scientific arguments. They're philosophical arguments. Science is neutral. He's trying to co-opt it for atheism.
In order to create an immensely complex universe, the Creator himself must be many orders of magnitude more complex.
That's silly. Simplicity can be profounder than complexity. Complexity is usually a means to the end of simplicity. Okay. For instance, all this technological junk that you brought in here for this interview is just for the sake of a couple of minds coming up with a couple of ideas, which is a very simple thing, and you don't need technology for it. But you need technology to communicate it. And I think he means by that the Marxist theory that all of religion, all of ideology, all of thought is a byproduct. It doesn't cause anything. Material events are the only things that cause things. So that thoughts are like the puff of smoke that comes out of the tailpipe of the car. It doesn't make the car move, it's just a byproduct. So thought is basically a fart of the brain. Mm-hmm. So religion is just a pious smelling fart. Well, of course religion has evolved. That is, it's part of the ongoing story of human life in time and in matter and in history, but it hasn't evolved simply from matter. What evolves from matter is matter. Religion is a set of ideas. It evolves from other ideas. The way that a conclusion follows the premises of an argument is different than the way one billiard ball follows another billiard ball when you hit it.
You're going to give us any insights into your new work?
Well, it's a novel of spiritual warfare, and it's sort of an angel's eye view of the connection between Jesus Christ, Mohammed, dead Vikings, philosophical Muslim surfers, Jewish mother substitutes, post-abortion trauma, Russian prophets, the beauty of islands, and the end of the world, among a few other things.
Wow, well, that's quite a range.
Yeah.
And when does it due out?
Around Christmas, I think. A little before that, maybe.
All right, excellent. Are you going to release any excerpts for us to?
No, I don't have it with me.
To salivate over?
The one that just came out a few weeks ago is called Between Allah and Jesus. That's dialogues between Muslims and Christians. Mm-hmm. Some of the characters in that are taken from my novel. I'm surprised by a couple of things. For instance, why so many Christians fear evolution, why they fear Muslims, why people like Dawkins get so much press. So I write books about what I'm surprised at.
So why are you surprised that Christians are afraid of Muslims?
Because Islam is a religion very similar to Christianity in many ways. 95% of the Quran is almost straight out of the Bible. Mm-hmm. And somebody once said, if the Catholic Church wanted to get its social agenda pushed through Congress in America, the best thing to do would be to kick out every single Roman Catholic and replace him with a Muslim. The entire history of the world, the miracle that was witnessed by most people, 2 million, in a suburb of Cairo, Egypt, in the 1990s at, what's it called, Zaytun, was the Blessed Virgin Mary on the dome of a cathedral making peace signs between Muslims and Christians. And most of the people who saw her were Muslims.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the media emphasizes Muslim terrorists, which are a small minority, because they make noise, and noise makes news. But the ordinary pious Muslim doesn't make news.